Hello and welcome to Dave's Delightful Dishes. As always, I'm Dave, and it's such a delight to have you here visiting to me today on New Year's Eve in my kitchen. And what we're doing today is we are going to make some eggplant parm for my wife to be able to enjoy later. So we're going to make it, and then we're going to pack it away for the freezer. Let's go check it out. So my wife let me know that she wanted to have some stuff to be able to just pull out of the freezer and enjoy if I'm away, or any other reason where she might want to reheat something without having to make a big ordeal out of it. I cook relatively fancy most of the time, so it's having a freezer meal is something that's nice and different. So what we're going to do is we're going to make some eggplant parm, just the parm, and then she can pull them out whenever she wants to, throw them in the oven, and reheat and toss it on pasta. So we're going to take these ingredients and we're going to make it into some eggplant parm. First thing we got to do is we got to break the eggplant down. Now, if you have a mandolin, you can do individual slices, but what I've found is my mandolin isn't quite big enough, and I haven't found one the right size for me yet for these big aubergines. So instead, I'm going to take the end off, both sides, and then I'm going to make some, trying to make them even slices. And they're about that thick. You can make them thinner, you can make them thicker, depending on how you like it. I like there to be a little bit there. These paper thin ones, unless you're going to do it as an eggplant parm lasagna, I would say that those aren't as good for these purposes. So I'm looking for 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick. I'm going to break the rest of this up and I'll get back to you. All right, now that I've got them sliced and laid out, and people have asked me in the past, do you take off the skin? And you can. I happen to not, because I don't mind the skin, and there's nutrients in every part of the things you're eating. But if you like to have it peeled, what I would do is cut it down first, then just kind of cut along the edges to make it easier to remove the skins. But that's a personal choice. But now I've got these laid out, and I'm going to take some salt, and I'm going to sprinkle some salt over them. And this is going to start pulling some moisture out of them. Because right now, as you can imagine, they're pretty moist. So we're going to let this just work for 5 to 10 minutes. And then we're going to blot that moisture off before we move on to the next step. So take a little time here. It'll pay in dividends of not having super mushy eggplant later. All right, so now there's some moisture on top of these, so I'm going to give them just a quick pat down with a clean paper towel. Keyword clean, of course. And that little bit of salt as seasoning isn't going to do us wrong. I got a couple more over here. And now all of these are coming over to a plate. And we're going to get ready to dredge. So the key for me for good dredging, and if you've watched this show before, you've probably seen me fry some things, because I enjoy doing it. I like the way fried food comes out. Just, don't make it part of your everyday diet and you'll be okay. So I have 3 stations. I have flour. I have 2 beaten eggs, or more depending on how much I'm doing. This might end up needing more. And then I have Italian-style breadcrumbs. Now, you can use any type of breadcrumbs you like, but because I'm making eggplant parm, I think that's a good seasoning blend. I can always add more stuff to it if I want a little hotter, maybe. But right now, I'm working with this just fine. And so I have the 3 stations, and you wash your hands pretty well beforehand. And then I'm going to go ahead and take this one. 1 eggplant, and I'm going to get it in the flour, so it's got coverage. And that's going to go into the eggs. And notice that this hand is not touching anything yet. And now that I've got good coverage in the egg batter, I'm going to take a little handful of this breadcrumb lay this in there, pour it on top, and then I'll use the non-wet hand to scoop coverage onto this eggplant. If your coverage isn't complete, like I'm missing a spot there, I can always just dunk it back into the egg, because who's going to tell you you're wrong? And now this is breaded and ready to go onto the plate, and I'm going to work my way across all these. We'll do another one. Into the flour. You see it's got pretty good coverage. If you're missing a spot, go back and make sure. Into the egg batter. Yeah, really just the scrambled eggs. Try not to get yourself too gross. I'll pick up some breadcrumbs. Lay that in. Couple of flips. And I see again, I got one spot that I missed, so I can dip it back in, or just make sure you get good coverage the first time, but I am filming, so that'll happen. And that is now ready to go next to it. And I'm gonna work my way through all these eggplants until they're fully coated, and we'll move on to the next step. All right, now that everything's breaded, and I've gotten I've put vegetable oil in a cast iron pan. You could use any vessel you want for frying, or you could bake these too, but I like them fried. There's something that they're just crispier when they come out of a frying process. So this oil is hot. I'm now going to gently place in a couple of these guys. And this process might take a while depending on how many you're frying. But we're going to let these cook. You see, if it's not bubbling, the oil's not hot enough. So we're going to cook this till you see golden brown around the edges, and then we'll flip. All right, these are looking pretty good. And if they're not brown enough when you flip them over, you can always give them one more flip after. So you see they're starting to brown up. And there is another step in this process, so I don't want to over fry them. All right, so I'm going to give these another 30 seconds to a minute to get that side browned. And then we are going to head, I got to process the rest of these, but then we're going to head to the final cooking step. All right, these guys are nice and golden brown on both sides. So I'm going to bring them to a towel, to drain the excess oil off, and then get as much back into the pot as you can, and then put them here. Because we want to let as much of that oil come off now as possible. Okay, so we've taken these, and I've got a foil-covered cookie sheet, which I put some cooking spray on just to keep anything from sticking, although there's enough oil with this fried stuff that it shouldn't really be too much of a problem. And then I'm going to take some of my pasta sauce. I've got different types, but this thick marinara I always think looks pretty good with this kind of a dish. And I'm going to lay out some marinara over each one. You don't want to drown them, but enough for getting some good coverage. When they're being reheated after freezing for being eaten, they can always they're going to make pasta, so they'll have more sauce to go with it at that point. Real simple. Just keep it smooth, keep it even. And really, you can't go too wrong unless you drown them. Just look at the amount that works for you. And I'm using sauce that I made, but you can certainly just go to the store and buy a jar of pasta sauce, whichever flavor you like. No problem at all. I am never here to judge. And now I need to put on some mozzarella. And if you're a big cheese lover, you can always add more. But I'm just trying to get an even layer here. And also, your big cheese lover can add a second layer when they're baking it on the reheat as well. All right, so that's the mozzarella. And now we're going to grate on some Parmesan. And I'm not worried about what goes on the foil, because that's why I've got foil there. I'm just going to roll that up and throw it out when I'm done cooking. Okay, this is now ready, and we're going to go put these in a 375-degree oven for probably about 20 minutes. But what we're looking for is the cheese to all melt and just be beginning to brown. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so at 375 degrees, this actually took 15 minutes, and you can see it's just starting to brown up, but it's melted really well. And then now we just need to let these cool. Once they've cooled enough so that we can pack them away, we'll get to that, the final step. Okay, well, my favorite way of preserving stuff and putting them in the freezer to prevent freezer burn is to use these vacuum seal bags. There's a couple brands. I happen to use one in particular that you can see there, but you know, whichever one you have will work. So I want to slide my eggplant parm in. And as soon as it's tight, I hit the seal. I'm not trying to get to 4 here because I don't want to suck all the juice out. And it's just that easy. All right, so food prepping is just that easy. Whether you're going to have your food now or later, all you got to do is take that little extra time to think about how you do it. I'm going to let these cool all the way, and then they're going to go into the freezer, and my wife can pull them out whenever she wants them and have a nice little snack. So I hope you guys try this too, or something like it, and let me know what you'd like to see next. You can check me out on my Facebook page for Dave's Delightful Dishes, which will be linked in the description, as are all my all the ingredients for every one of my recipes if you're looking at the rest of my channel. And while you're at it, hey, how about giving me a like and subscribing if you like what I'm doing? And let me know what you want to see next. My Instagram is there. You can let me know on there as well. But until I see you again, I'll check you out in the next recipe.